Well, hello, folks. I'm LA Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. We take a look at these markets. We do it from a neoclassical perspective each time, asking ourselves what happened today. What does it tell us about the coming ones? Do the show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube under the channel LA Little. As far as what happened today, if you remember last night, we were looking for some sort of a bounce today, at least an attempt, if not a bounce, and that's what we got. We got a decent bounce, 3/4% on the NDX, on the industrials, 0.5%, and actually almost 3/4 on the SP. And the Russell was bringing up the tail end there with just 0.2. Gold sold down again. The dollar was strong, 0.8. That was putting pressure on commodities. Oil was down almost 4%. Got beat up pretty good. And the bonds got whacked almost 2 full points, 1.5%. And so we have kind of the risk on thing going on again. We talked about that, I think it was last night. And that bounce is in effect, and it's coming up fairly quickly, not so much on the SPX, although getting close, but definitely elsewhere. And that is that first swing point low that has the lowest high, and in this case it's this swing point low, the most recent one. You're coming up to try to test into a full retest and attempt to regenerate, in other words go down again off that test. Now theoretically, in classical or neoclassical TA, you take the lowest low, and that's the one that you look for in terms of trend transition, not transition, but a preliminary indication of what's going to happen next with respect to trend. So what I'm trying to say here, maybe I didn't say it as well as I should have, but we had a push down, right? We transition trend. In other words, we got underneath here, underneath here, underneath here, push down. Now we're getting a bounce. As we bounce, the question always becomes, do you bounce up so far and then you head down again, or do you really keep going? Right? I mean, that's always kind of the question. The way you answer that question is you look at the break points on the prior swing point lows and measure them, right? You measure up against them. So the lowest one is here. That one's a decent measure because it gives you some indication of what's going on, but the real measure is the one that was the lowest price point. In other words, the lowest price point down here. And in that case, it's way back here in May. That top is up around 2100. That's the real test, and as you note, it's right at the top of this big breakdown bar. Folks, that's where the rubber is going to meet the road. If you get over this, well, you definitely are going sideways again, right? But if you get over this, you got a good chance to go all the way back to the highs again. And so, anywhere in this area doesn't mean much. Just means you got to bounce. Over that area definitely means you got something going on again to the top side. That's the S&P 500. If we look at the NASDAQ, again, we go look for the swing point low, and we say, okay, where was it? Where we broke. And in this case, the lowest one happens to be the most recent one. You come right up to it, you test up to it, you fail. Again, this looks like a bearish retest regen that's going to try to regenerate lower. Comes up, test into it, can't get higher, wants to regenerate lower. Right? That's how ABCD structures get created. How do you change that? And this is one of the strongest indexes. How do you change it to go sideways instead of farther down? You get over this area and you hold it. That's the test. Tomorrow you got the unemployment number, you got a long weekend over the 4th of July. You got the Greek question on Sunday. You've got, a lot of stuff happening here. And so the question is as this comes up, do the buyers want to ante up and buy up? That's the question. Do they see a reason to buy up? In other words, pay higher prices to get in again. If they don't, then you can regenerate lower. That's really what's at issue here. NDX also comes up, and you got the exact same thing here. Look at your swing point low. In this case, it's here. What do? You come over it, you test over it, you fail on it, you can't get over it. You're still in the regenerate mode. And on the Russell, it's a little bit different because the Russell doesn't have a swing point broken yet. Russell's still getting a bounce. Does look like it's going to fade back in though. So far on the indexes, last night call was easier because odds were you were going to get a bounce. Tonight's call is going to be harder because you can't expect that. You're 2 bars into a bounce already. Usually after a big move down, 2 to 3 bar bounce is about all you can expect before a continuation of that trend, if in fact that's what's going to happen. Let's go over to the world markets, see what those look like. And let's start in Asia. And actually we didn't have Hong Kong trade last night, but the Shanghai did. Shanghai sold off and it's back. Well, I don't have the volumes again. And let me see if I can find them right quick. Okay, fortunately I was able to pull them up, so we've got the volumes to look at. So we had heavier volume yesterday, right? We go back up, almost a takeaway bar, but you left volume at the bottom. What does it do? It goes over, back under, has less volume. This is going to try to trade back down and test this area again. So Shanghai looks as if it wants to try to test lower. Let's look at, let me see, what else in Asia? Nikkei, we can look at the Nikkei. That was open last night. So that one comes back into this high and didn't quite test it. Yeah, this can trade higher on a bounce. That one looks like it can trade higher. Let's look at Germany and see what they did today. So not a lot of volume. You come up. So this is doing the retest regen again, second time up. It's really not a retest regen because it's already broken that. So this is just a bounce. And boy, there's not a lot to go on here. It can trade. It can trade higher and test again, but right now it doesn't look like it's going anywhere. Let's see what France looks like. And that was about the same. So you got a long tail, stays inside. That one can test up to the tops again too. So when I look at the overseas markets, they're not telling me a whole lot. Domestic markets are telling me so far it's a bearish retest and attempt to regenerate. Let's flip through the sectors right quick and see if there's anything here. So the IBB pops up, sells off. Home builders, under, back over, less volume. That looks like it's going to bounce. Transports, leaves volume. It's going to test lower again. Stocks, can't do anything, has volume at the bottom. That looks like that will also try to test lower. Basic materials, inside bars, still bouncing, doesn't tell us a whole lot. XLE, this sold off hard today, not a lot of volume though. But that one does look like it's going to, there's nothing here to tell you it's going to stop yet. XLF, now the financials got a bounce finally. And they got out of this bar, 24.73, they closed at 75, they have about the same amount of volume. That is a bright spot. This one can trade higher. So the financials so far is the only one showing that. XLI, still inside bars doing nothing. XLK, inside bars doing nothing. XLP, trades back to the top, but still inside bars. XLU, still nothing there. XLV, inside bars. XLY. And this is one of the stronger ones. That's going to trade back up to the top of that bar. Looks to me like, for the most part, you can get a little bit more bounce here, but it ain't much. It's just not much. So you got indexes saying it's trying to regenerate lower. You got world markets not telling you much of anything useful, certainly not bullish. You got sectors not telling you anything. Let's finally look at the ox markets. Let's see what the bonds, I know they sold off today. Let's see how bad they look. So volume pushing higher again. That is going to try to break out the lows again. Now that's the strange case, right, where now you have, bonds are trying to break out the lows, whereas, that's saying that money should be going to equities, but because it's saying that there's no fear coming into these, which is what you had back here, short covering fear. Now you're back down. If we go look at the dollar, okay, so they got a decent pop up. That's going to try to test into the low of this high, and that looks like it will do it tomorrow. And let me see what the high quality corp bonds did. Did they sell off? And they did the same thing. Let me see what the junk bonds did. They also sold off. So now we're getting debt in general selling off, which is not what we had the last 2 days. Gold market really couldn't go anywhere today. Just sit there. That's still going to try to test the bottom. And let's see what the currency looks like in Europe. And not coming down with too much volume. It's testing, it has more volume. That's going to try to trade lower too. So looks to me like the bounce is over. I wouldn't say it's a high probability we're going down tomorrow, but I certainly wouldn't be betting that we're going up anymore. Last night was a decent bet on it. Tonight, much more up in the air. And the preponderance of evidence is that you might get a little bit more push in the morning, but after that, I suspect it's going to come back in. I don't think it's going anywhere tomorrow. That's it for tonight. Let's see. Tomorrow is Thursday, and then markets are closed Friday for the long weekend. I will do a show tomorrow, and then we will, of course, wrap it up until the weekend. That's it for tonight. Thanks for joining me as always. Take care. Have a great one. And thanks for joining me. Take care. Good night.